Ladies and gentlemen, there's no better way to get up in the morning than to get up with Garret. Garret is a third-generation success-credential real estate entrepreneur who's here to give you tips, tricks, and share stories of success. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Garret Bedroom.
Good morning, Dougie.
Good morning.
I should say good evening. Who knows where you are right
now? Yeah,
now?
who knows? It's been a week.
Big news, some big
Yes,
mazel tov to Dougie, right? And your wife, you welcome in your first baby.
Yep, baby Samantha.
Little Sammy Rose.
Yep.
Welcome to the Undefeated Media family.
Absolutely.
Time to get some sleep. And I told Dougie earlier I could teach you everything there is to be known about swaddling, right? And those middle of the night feedings, we can help any way we can.
Yep. Swaddling pro.
It's a wonderful, you got to swaddle a baby like a football, and then you take it like Danny Jones. You run, you throw, kind of that RPO.
Yep.
And we're just so excited and so thrilled for you. And we're also thrilled about the Chiefs beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Nothing better than the Eagles losing.
Because, they always say once a giant, always a giant. And for Eli Manning, it was only a giant. But to have Kadarius Toney play such a big role in that game, we traded him over to the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
He ran back almost a touchdown on a punt return, which would have been probably, I don't know, either the first time ever or recent. Certainly, It's been years in the Super Bowl in a huge spot. He had a great game. And then, of course, thank you to James Bradbury, who used to be on the Giants last year. He went over to the Eagles and put that big hold, that little hold, I guess you'd say, on Juju Smith-Schuster. And Giants fans are just reunited on this love for the Eagles losing and not having to go through the whole offseason hearing those dirty and silly Philly fans.
Philadelphia.
Did you enjoy the game a little?
Yeah. It's always great when the Eagles lose.
I don't know. Sammy Rose got to watch her first NFL game, but I know we were cheering. I felt bad. We were at a small get together, and there were some Eagles fans there, and I would not have wanted to have been a Giants fan watching the Super Bowl with Eagles fans around me. But it was great. Do you have a picture? I sent you a funny Valentine.
Oh yes.
Speaking about the hold, and we're not going to play the clip, but everyone's seen it now. I was curious what your thoughts were. I mean, for me,
it's great.
It was definitely a hold. It was definitely a hold. So here's Juju text. What is this? Tweeting out.
Yep.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I'll hold you when it matters most. And that's a picture of Bradbury. So good taste, bad taste. What do you think? Did he go too far?
Nah,
was it in fun? A little tease?
Yeah, a little. It was in fun, but on the borderline. He's on the line.
Yeah,
almost crossed it.
Did you think it was a hold? Would you have blown the whistle?
Questionable. You're damned if you call it. You're damned if you don't call it. People would have been outraged if you didn't call it.
Right. Absolutely. You're right.
It's right there.
In the biggest spots, I think you want to get it right more than anything. I think a lot of people will say, well, how's the game been called so far? Right. And is that consistent with the way the refs were calling it, kind of loose, kind of tight, whatever? And so you can make that argument. But, just like the week before when they hit Mahomes out of bounds and he got the extra, I think, 15-yard penalty, which ended the game. In those last 1 or 2 minutes, you are under just such a scrutiny. You got to get the call right. We should endeavor to get the call right every time.
See, but I would that call when the out of bounds, hitting him out of bounds, I wouldn't have called that.
You wouldn't have called that one. Okay.
So he's going out of bounds, momentum. He hits him with one arm. Yeah, he hits it with one arm. He's not really trying to hurt him. I wouldn't necessarily call that one. That one seemed a little bit over the top.
Gotcha.
But if you're holding in the middle of a play and you're changing what the play is, that's a different story.
And some people will say, well, it didn't really affect the outcome if you look at where the ball landed and where it was, but you don't know what route he's doing, on his way. He may have. And look, I was under the impression that the Chiefs made such incredible adjustments with Andy Reid and their coaching staff that there was nothing that the Eagles could do in the fourth quarter or potential overtime to stop the Chiefs. They were scoring at will, and their last 2 touchdowns were wide open.
Yeah.
Just blown coverage. So I think Bradbury said it right when he said, I held him. I think what he meant to say was I couldn't stop him. We held him. Now, I will say one of the former New England Patriots, I want to say maybe Rob Ninkovich, I was watching one of the programs that next day, and he said, if this were the Patriots, we would have been wearing white gloves because you had a white undershirt. He goes, why are you wearing black gloves with a white undershirt? Tackling a white jersey, that black glove will be seen clearly. Okay. I feel like I'm maybe on the OJ trial right now. If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Am I Robert Shapiro? So I thought that was so interesting. The Patriots kind of looking away, how to bend the rules and maybe almost cheat as much as possible to wear the white glove on the white jersey, says then they wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah, true.
So I thought that was something. And maybe our guest later will pop in and talk about what it's like to lose the last second, because Seattle did lose to the Patriots last time the Super Bowl was in Glendale, Arizona. So the other exciting thing, I'm wearing my Hedges shirt, thanks to my wife from Love Letters on Instagram, Love Letters Gifts. You can get a custom shirt. We have our grand opening today for the Planet Fitness building, which did open for business prior to the end of the year. And they're going to do a ribbon cutting. I think Z100 is going to be there playing some music. So if you're in Bergen County or Passaic County, you want to stop by between 4 and 6 at 204 Wagora Road and say hello. And I know they'll have some giveaways and prizes and all that good stuff. And we're getting closer. We hope to have the power on in the Hedges apartment building next week. And I know we've been doing some of the amenities areas, which I've shown previously. So I think we're kind of in that, 6-week, 8-week window here where we're going to get to the finish line. And we have almost 3,000 people now on our waiting list for information, which is just mind blowing. The positivity and the constructive feedback we've received is super appreciative for that project. So
nice.
We're excited.
Congratulations.
We're getting there. And I'm off to North Carolina next week for a day trip. Just Wednesday, I'm going to be down there looking at new properties for sale. It's always good to kind of tour the market for a day. So we'll fly in, we'll meet up with some of our friends, and we'll take a look at some assets, and we'll come back and see. Who knows? Maybe we'll make some offers, and who knows what we come home with. Right?
Absolutely, good stuff.
Do you think they can put an apartment complex in the overhead baggage above? Does JetBlue charge extra for that?
Is it over 50 pounds?
Probably. So anyway, we've got a great guest today. I'm excited. As I spend some time traveling the country and listening to more podcasts and reading more books about the commercial real estate industry, I'm getting really a fantastic education and the opportunity to meet some great people who have been in the business and I can learn from them. They can learn from us and share the wealth. I think that's really very healthy in this industry. And so I met a nice young man named Karl. I'm not even going to try his last name because I'll butcher it. Let him say it. And Karl grew up kind of in the Florida area, went to school in West Palm Beach, and now he lives out in Seattle and does a lot of apartment purchasing, renovations, started with some house flipping. So I thought it'd be great to bring on Karl and share his stories of success and help the audience. So if you don't mind finishing up some of those special Seattle Seahawk M&Ms in the green room, come on and join us. Karl, are you there?
I am. How are you guys doing? I appreciate it.
We're doing great. And thanks for getting up early with us, getting up with Garret, because I know the West Coast is the best coast. So coming live from Seattle. Did you have your cup of Starbucks this morning or at the Reserve store or the fish market?
I did not. I'm actually a connoisseur. I've got my own espresso maker. I purchased my beans from 3 hours away, get them shipped in. This is no joke. And I have my own bean, my own roast, and it's fantastic.
That's amazing. So I've got the Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Thanks for not being a sponsor of the show, but supplying me with my caffeine high. And it's great to have you and great to connect with you. I've been listening to some of your shows and getting to know a little bit more about your background and your company. One of the things that I wanted to bring you on the show was because you didn't grow up in a real estate family.
Right.
You really started in a healthcare industry before getting into flipping houses. So I was just curious if you can kind of tell the audience, what was that transition like? How did you really find that moment to go from, somewhat of a typical corporate, America job and really fall in love with real estate?
Yeah, sure. So this must have been 2 years ago. I've been in the space full-time 2 years and have been investing 4 years in total. So I've gone from owning one primary residence to now we're at about to be 50 units under management. 2 of those years we're full time, and I think the catalyst for me where I was able to transition out of that day job was getting into the infill development, and it all aligned. 3 different flips all at the same time to sell out. So I got a nice, nest egg, so to speak, in terms of where we were able to kind of manage daily expenses and also line that up with a infill development. So we built 6 townhomes in urban Seattle, and was still moving pretty quickly in terms of single family flips, as well as some of the backyard cottages and more townhome developments. And this again was 2 years ago. So we've moved a little bit away from all of the townhouse development space, just given
Right.
where we're at from a market cycle perspective. And Seattle has got one of, I'm sure many other urban areas have it as well, but just really challenging permitting process, lengthy permitting process, bureaucratic, and it's just a challenge to navigate. So, instead of working on projects for 2 years for a townhouse development, we're really liking the space, broader horizon that apartments can provide.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
certainly opportunistic on the development side.
So, Carl, a lot of investors that are new to the real estate industry usually get started, and they may follow programs like Bigger Pockets and listen to some of the material there. And I hear a lot of this concept of single family houses and kind of like, all right, let's buy a house, let's chop it up. I think they call it house hacking. Let's start by renting 4 rooms out. Is that how you got started, or did you just kind of buy a house and say, all right, we think it's a great neighborhood and the house is $200,000, but it seems like everybody else is at 300. We can get in here and renovate and just flip it. Talk to me a little bit about one of those first kind of entrees there.
Sure. So first one was it was live and flip. So we had done a couple live and flips accidentally, right? I always looked at kind of the uglier houses intrinsically and wanted to provide some kind of value, whether it was to ourselves. And honestly, I think, the very, very first purchase in Dallas was probably because we didn't have enough money to afford a renovated nice home. And so, we had a budget, and our agent guided us to a little bit dirtier, kind of gnarly looking home. And we saw the diamond in the rough, so to speak. And, we went in, we did some renovations ourselves. And, at the end of it, we made a couple, I think like 100,000 or something like that, which is, fairly good.
That's great. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
And then, again, stumbled into another live and flip, and, house hacking, I absolutely love. We're
So
actively
when you say live and flip, just to be clear,
Sure.
you're going to live in there. That's going to be your primary residence, right? So maybe you're going to have grandma's kitchen and kind of deal with it for a little bit, right? And then you're going to kind of actually use it and renovate it at the same time, and then you're going to sell it and have a capital gain. And there's certain benefits. Obviously, you got to talk to your legal and tax folks about how you apply that, because there are some benefits in terms of capital gains taxes if it's your primary residence. And then you're literally going to take your wife or your partner, whoever, and you're going to go to the next one.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Simple, right? Live and flip. Dougie, you ever heard of that before?
Yeah. I mean, not that term, but that's,
but
I know that concept.
Yeah, I mean, people have probably done that and not realized that that's actually an investment strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why, it's a great strategy for when you start out younger and newer in the business is because you're there every day. You can keep an eye on it, right? It's very hard. People talk about, oh, Garrett's going to North Carolina or doing this thing over here. That's because we have teams and we've got experience with markets. Like, that's very challenging to do if you're new, especially if you have a corporate 9-to-5 job. Like you really can't be in Atlanta checking up on things, right? And a week or two goes by and your contractor steals from you. I mean, you got a big problem. So if you look at the live and flip model, you're there every day. And it is also paying for basically it's kind of like this it's an investment / I'm getting the benefit of, you'd almost, Carl, call it living for free if it ends up, right? It's kind of covering your cost.
Mm-hmm.
So then would that then come before like a house hack? Would you recommend kind of you start with a live and flip and then maybe you move up to a bigger home where you can rent out some bedrooms and live there as well?
Sure. So, I had this conversation earlier this week, and house hacking, for any folk that are either new in the space, be young, or really just want to understand and how they can utilize real estate kind of for the first time. I do like that. I do like and recommend the house hacking kind of path as one of the first, because it's a low risk. You need a house anyway. It's a low risk. You need like I said, you need a house, and you can rent and cover some of the mortgage. It's great. It's a great, nice way. And especially, we've met quite a few long-term friends now at this point where we've rented to them, and we grew a relationship, friendship. They moved out, and we continued the relationship.
That's
so
great.
it's, side benefits, great. Yeah, I mean, love it. The one challenge that I've seen is it's certainly geographically constrained to some degree. So like Seattle, for instance, we've got basements, we've got a ton of small multifamily, duplex, triplex, quadplex. But, back where I grew up in Cocoa Beach, Florida, there was none of that. There were no very, very few duplexes, small multifamilies. Basements were, non-existent in Florida, unless that's where you put that's where you'd put the in-laws.
Yeah. By the way, Karl, if any of your friends or family are watching from Florida, we want to welcome them not only onto the show, but also to come visit us in warm, sunny northern New Jersey. I mean, it's 60 degrees in Bergen County. I think I could just wear my Hedges t-shirt all day, guys. All this talk of moving to Florida, I wonder if people want to move back up to New Jersey where the temperature really is changing. But I digress. And I know, Karl, one of the things I want you to talk a little bit about today with our audience is some of the things you're doing with the auxiliary units. I think, what do you call them? ADUs? I always screw up my... Because that's kind of a function of not necessarily house hacking, but it's the idea of kind of like, squeezing out something that maybe you didn't know that was there and finding a great opportunity. We've done similar things, and I'll get to that. But I want you to take a moment and kind of explain what that strategy is, especially why that's interesting in the Seattle market.
Sure. So specifically, it's the detached ADU. So these are backyard cottages in the true sense. Mother-in-law cottage was another name that was coined a little while ago. I think it's a little less used. But these backyard cottages here in Seattle, you've got a primary existing home, and depending on the lot size, depending on structure, et cetera, you can put in these up to 1,000 square foot homes, detached homes, 2-bed, 1.5 bath, or whatever you can actually fit into that 1,000 square feet. And there's no zoning, there's no upzoning requirements. It's built by right. And what is really interesting specifically about the state of Washington too is that you can condominiumize your properties and then sell off units individually. So in Seattle, since they allow non-owner occupied owners or investors rather to buy and build these detached ADUs, you can also condominiumize them and then sell the existing home separate from the detached
the primary.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or you can keep them both and finance them on separate or same loans.
And this is as of right through the whole state of Washington, or just certain areas in Seattle, or?
So it's the city of Seattle that allows you to do the non-owner occupied detached ADU. So
okay, guys, non-owner meaning you're not living there; it's somebody else.
Right.
So let's real quick.
That was a lot for us, and Dougie's not sleeping well.
What? So I have a property. Okay. I have my house.
You got your house.
I have a backyard.
You got
I'm
the
like,
shed. Right.
Hey, well, I don't have nothing now, but I'm going to build a shed or
up to 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet. Now, can I go as high as I want? 1,000 square feet plot of land, but I can go higher.
No. 1,000 square feet is the gross floor area of the shed. It's a 1-story deal.
So you can't build upon as long as it's
not a 3-story.
You can't just go up and up and up.
Right? No.
You've got height restrictions, 35 feet, and
35
so
feet.
Usually you got two-story.
Maybe 2 stories. If you do 2 stories, though, Karl, I mean, it would be 500 square feet of a footprint, and then 500 above it. That's 1,000.
Right.
Easy math.
Okay.
So you could probably do that.
So
now you build this in the back.
What I was saying doing above each other is because 1,000 square feet, you have that plot of land of 1,000 square feet, but like it's 1,000 square feet above that. 1,000 square feet.
That would be 2,000 square feet. Yeah, total 1,000. So it could be a 500 square foot footprint with 500 above it, or it could be 1,000 of one.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So now you build this unit, right?
Yep.
And you put your mother-in-law in it, right?
Yeah.
This is, by the way, if my mother-in-law is watching, I'm not putting you here. Don't worry.
1,000 square feet's a lot.
I'll see you at lunch today. She's gonna kill me. I'm having lunch with my in-laws today. I know she doesn't want to live in my backyard. So okay, so you build this beautiful unit. You're gonna do the siding to kind of match your house. You're gonna make it look like it's part of the community, right?
Yep.
It's got to look nice. I don't want these things to look like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then you rent it to, it's somebody else, right? Your mother-in-law. It's not really your mother-in-law. It's somebody else. I guess, could you use Airbnb to find,
there you go.
right? You'd probably use that type of structure to find a person.
Sure.
So now you have them in there, and maybe they pay you. I mean, I'm just making these numbers up, guys. $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
If your mortgage on your house is $2,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Now you've got somebody who's paying, half your mortgage. To me, that makes a ton of sense. But then what Karl's saying is you can go a step further. You can legally separate the structure and using a condo, platform.
Yep.
And I guess you make an association and you have a little budget, whatever. These things sound hard to do, but they're really not. The lawyers can do these for you. And it's not that big a deal. We were looking at condoing hedges into 3 buildings. And now you can sell that little extra unit, right?
Mhm.
Or sell the primary. You sell them
You
both,
can sell them completely separately. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, completely separate. Okay. So this is massive value. Like in our backyard now, I have a little shed. I
Mhm.
can't just go sell that shed to you and
Right.
be, like, let's say there's no sheds available at Home Depot. And you're like, Garret, I need a shed. And I'm like, well, Dougie, I'll sell it to you for $100,000. And you're like, yeah, but Garret, a shed costs $50,000. Yeah, but nothing available. It's $100 now.
Mhm.
I can't do that in New Jersey.
Mhm.
He's saying in Seattle, special zoning allows you. So it's kind of, this, I wouldn't call it a loophole because it's kind of a way that I guess they're trying to, well, why do you think they did this actually? Is it maybe to help affordable housing and try to promote more reasonable, priced, because it's a tight market in Seattle?
Yeah, exactly. Promote affordable housing.
Got it. So that's what they're trying to do. But investors can really do well with this because, let's say your grandmother bought this piece of land. You've owned it in the family for a long time. Your cost basis was pretty cheap. Now, if you go to buy the land, obviously everyone knows about this, so it's
Mhm.
not going to be cheap to get in. But you've got to pick and choose and find your little pockets, right? So that's pretty cool. So you've done a few of those, Karl?
Yep. Yeah, they're great. I absolutely love them. In the properties that come with or that you can get in with alley access, corner lots, something to that nature, where when you're putting these detached ADUs in, it's not like you're driving through somebody's side yard or backyard and getting access to what you would end up spending is real numbers are going to be $3,000 to $3,500 in rent for 1,000 square foot.
Whoa!
Yep. Or
Ring
you're
the
going to be
register.
buying these things for $675 to $750. And most recently, I know one of my buddies sold his detached ADUs for $950,000.
Oh my God, don't say that too loud. That's almost $1 million. $1 million.
Is this on like a prime street?
Now,
yeah, absolutely.
This
So
is a great
prime
time.
area.
This is a great time to remind our audience and our friends that our show is live, and feel free to comment and throw any questions in the comment box. And of course, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. We also have an email address, right?
Yeah.
I believe it's, let's see if I get it right. getupwithgarret@gmail.com. Shoot us an email and let me know, how would you like it if Dougie were living in your backyard? I mean, if Dougie wants to pay me $3,000 a month, God bless, take it.
For 1,000
Enjoy. How much extra for a pool?
How much
Jeez.
extra for warm water and electricity?
I mean, and now these units are going to be nice too, right? These are indoor plumbing. This is like a real little,
Yeah, absolutely.
almost a tiny house, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
you're going to go
site built, site built, slab on grade concrete foundation. It's a house. It's essentially a house. It's just a little bit smaller.
I love it. I think less is more. I like that lady who comes into your house and tells you to get rid of everything in your closet and spark joy. And I'd like to take everything I own and put it into 1,000 square foot house, be a little more flexible, be able to travel more. I think there's something to be said about that. And look, if you move to an expensive market and you've got a great job in Seattle and San Francisco, New York, these are expensive places to live for people. So, kudos to the elected officials in that area to figure out something that inspires people to not only invest in their home and add value by putting in this ADU, but to have an opportunity for up and coming folks to have a place to rent that maybe, would be less money than renting the full house, of course. So that's exciting. So you've done a few of those, and now I know you'll probably always do those, because if you find those are great opportunities. But your bread and butter now, Karl, is more looking for apartment buildings where you can renovate, add value, and force appreciation, right?
Exactly.
And syndicate. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I just want to put one disclaimer. We're not offering any specific securities in this conversation. You really do have to consult your legal and tax partners. And we're just going to talk broadly about the different types of projects that are out there. And anybody can reach out to Karl later we'll put some contact information there if you want to figure out if that's the right fit for you. So it's just a discussion as a disclaimer, okay?
Right. So, you guys were talking about finding opportunities, whether it's in your backyard or within a specific project. And, I think that's one of the things that I'm really, really enjoying about some of the apartments that we've done and we're continuing to do is not only look at the core asset, how can we renovate, how can we make improvements to increase and get to market rate rent, but also looking at the structure, looking at the entirety of the asset itself, and how can we strip away part of the non-performing asset, get a premium sale price for it, and then really just hone in on the core asset itself. So, for instance, we've got 30 units out in Central Washington on 3 separate parcels. It includes a parking lot. What we're working on right now is identifying and working with another investor to buy 6 of those 30 units. Those 6 are on a separate parcel. And what we're working on right now is going in and selling those 6 units at what would be effectively a 2.5 to 3 cap and selling those now as opposed to waiting the original business plan, which was 7 to 10 year hold. And so 7 to 10 years, we would make roughly $275,000 per unit. But wait, we can actually go and do and get $265,000 per unit today. And
wow.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so we do that. We continue holding the 24 unit core assets, and then with the liquidation of those 6 units, go in, do a principal pay down, loan recast, return of capital to investors, and now we're in these apartments for an even lower cost basis.
That's great.
Boost cash
like
flow.
That.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, anytime you have the opportunity to take a few chips off the table and basically lower your cost basis, which means what you paid for the project, I always embrace that. If you have a chance to take a little money off the table, you can then go back, refinance, and now you can use that money earlier and put it into another project that could earn right away. So very smart. Takes a little bit of risk off the table.
Yep.
That is definitely a Get Up with Garret stamp of approval right there, Karl. And it reminds me, we actually did a deal in one of our shopping centers in Battleground Plaza in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I know Karl also looks in North Carolina. We've talked about that, where we were able to find a Chick-fil-A and bring them into the parking lot. And so now there's a brand new Chick-fil-A literally opened in the parking lot. They spent millions of dollars building the building. We didn't have to spend that money. Now they pay us rent for the ground. And now we've got chicken sandwiches forever. You know how much I love my Chick-fil-A. They sign a, 15, 20-year lease. We could literally, and I'm not bragging, I'm being clear, we could sell the Chick-fil-A for probably the same amount of money we actually invested in the shopping center 15 years ago to buy the whole thing. And so Karl's point hits really home when he says you're trying to find either or return parking lot isn't much for you. Taking that empty and turning it's an incredible what they say appreciation and support. So good for you to kind of figure out that move, Karl. I like that play. So you're gonna keep the use now. Was it 24 you're gonna keep?
Yeah, keep it 24.
And then how long typically will you look to hold that for the kind of 5-7 year typical strategy, or 10 years? Or would you say, you know what, we recapped so much capital out, let's just hold on now long term?
So our original business plan was 7 to 10 years, but that included the full liquidation of all 30 units at the end period. So, I think we may get to that 2x, close to the 3x equity multiple within the 5, closer to the 5, maybe 6 or 7 range. So I think if we can get it done, get the business plan done, get the investor metrics achieved, we'd rather sell out early and reposition that capital. So 1031, offer the option for a 1031 to the investors, move on to another project.
Now, Karl, everyone looks at, sometimes people use different terms a little differently. When you say a 2x, right? I view, like I say, an equity multiple of 2.0. To me, that's double your money, right? You invested
Yep.
100K and you got back your original 100K, and I gave you another 100K. You on the same
Right.
page?
Yep.
Yeah. So a 1.0 would be you just got what you put in,
Right.
right? Yeah. Some people do it a slightly different. So let's make sure you're on the same page. So so that's exciting. That's pretty cool. You've got some cool opportunities. And how I apologize. We should have got your email address, or I mean, do you want people to kind of reach out to you more on LinkedIn, Instagram, email? What's the best way? And Dougie will type it up
Yeah,
for you.
no, I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn's one of my favorite places to connect with folks. I do try and get some daily content out for whether it's what's going on in the market, macroeconomics from a Fed perspective, how are oil prices impacting potentially impacting real estate, whether it's hyper local, et cetera. So certainly love the LinkedIn space, and
Yeah, search
whether
for you on LinkedIn. Absolutely, they can reach out to you and send you a message. Hey, I heard you on Garrett's show. It was great to connect. I would love to get some advice or just kind of talk shop a little.
Yep.
You're open to all that. So let's talk about North Carolina, my favorite home, the Tar Heel State. Tell me what your thoughts are. Why do you like North Carolina? Because I know that's why we got connected a little bit. I was really intrigued hearing about your interest in the market. So tell the audience about what's the secret down there that we're all getting excited about.
Sure. So growing up in healthcare, from my career perspective, absolutely loved both the marriage between technology and healthcare, and what really technology was able to do to enable care services, care providers to become more effective. And the term that we used was operating at the top of your license. And a lot of the technology that we provided in that company was for nurses. So how can we make nurses more effective? We operated a call center of nurses. And again, how can we help to let them operate at the top of their license? And so, as I was getting closer to the proverbial exit of my corporate job, this was again 2 to 4 years ago. The research triad was really becoming a hot spot for technology related healthcare technology. And I really loved, again, this is both from a passion standpoint as well as a potential profit perspective, right? Seeing the right population, the right type of population growing there. Cost of living, cost of acquisition was, again, favorable from an investor standpoint. And so, it kind of married the three things that I was familiar with: cost per unit, cost for land, as well as healthcare and technology. So really like the market for that perspective.
Yeah, I think it's great. So some of these areas, like you've got obviously Raleigh-Durham, the Research Triangle, and then you're probably I think you're 90 miles to Greensboro, and then there's a lot of areas in between there, Burlington, Graham, Mebane, that are just really up and coming. Maybe you've had some friends that have gone to Elon University is kind of in the mix there. And it's like these high-paying jobs. And it's funny, I know a friend of ours, Jeanette Robinson from Blue Lake Capital, always says it's really important to understand who your tenant base is, right? Like who's moving in and renting these apartments. And I think you agree with that point in understanding who are the people that have these jobs that are now moving down to these areas. They're making great money, and they're probably used to spending a little bit more money on rent. And they also really care about paying their rent, right? They care about being in their community, and they're not looking to kind of default on their rent and get evicted and run away.
Right.
They've got important jobs. And they're also comfortable driving, 20 minutes. They don't have to necessarily live in the middle of the urban core. They'll drive a half hour to and have a wonderful place to live. So look, our family's been investing in Greensboro since, I always get confused, April of 2007 or April of 2008. I should, Dougie, go back and check that. I can't, does anybody else in the room have a time lapse problem? For me, the last 3 years, I feel like it's Back to the Future. There's a point in the movie where they're missing the old 1985 or something. I have no idea from like 18, 19, maybe 17, all in that, because of COVID, it screwed me up. But I should know 07, 08. I got married in 08. And of course, the Giants won that great Super Bowl, so I should know that. But we've been down there, call it 15 years to be make it easy. And one of the things that you mentioned that really caught my interest, Karl, was the yield. So, like, I remember buying shopping centers at a 7.5 cap or an 8 cap or 8.5 cap, and I was looking at other areas like Raleigh, even Raleigh and Charlotte, which have kind of Charlotte in the 90s had a big banking push. So in Greensboro, I was able to find these deals that I felt like were, 100 to 200 basis points better cap rates to the investor side, and same tenant, right? Ross, TJ Maxx, Dollar Tree. I mean, a Dollar Tree lease for 10 years is the same thing in Atlanta. It's the same thing in Charlotte or in Greensboro. So if you can make, 2 points on it better in Greensboro, why would you not do that? So for us, that was huge. And of course, we also saw the infrastructure, the medical infrastructure, all the great hospital systems merging with the university systems was very strong. They're continuing to add funding. Obviously, the road work, the physical infrastructure. I know I was telling you about that property that we bought literally right off the new 840 loop around the city, 20 acres. And, I just felt like long term, that becomes a great asset. It's the first shopping center off the new highway in the best area of town. You could literally work at the airport, live where at our property, get there anywhere you want because it's so conveniently located. And what happened? Trader Joe's just opened across the street.
Beautiful.
Habit Burger's opening, a brand new movie theater. Sprouts opened down the street. We got Chick-fil-A in the parking lot. So in the last 5 years, it has just been an incredible run. And, we're just really thrilled and excited about what the future brings us. So I know you want to look for some things in Greensboro. Maybe we'll connect on a deal and be able to look at something together at some point. That would be exciting. Any other kind of last advice for up-and-coming entrepreneurs that you want to share that you think will be helpful in terms of getting them, jump-started into this business? I'm happy to share that.
Sure. I would absolutely say understanding where you want to go and what you want to do with and how you want to use real estate, right? So again, identifying what you're doing all of this for and keeping that front and center. It's so easy to get lost in the daily hustle, the daily grind. It feels so good when you're working on a pipeline, and then all of a sudden things start coming to fruition, and it's great, and then you start moving on to the next one, but you don't pause and you don't reflect. Okay, again, why are we doing this? Why are we busting our butt to build this generational wealth? Again, for me, it's generational wealth, it's legacy, and being able to create that long lasting impression, both on from a breadth and depth standpoint for me and my family. So again, keeping that front and center and not losing that as we're putting deals together, as we're putting investments together. So I would say certainly define your why and then keep that front and center.
Yeah, I love that perspective. I talk a lot about legacy and generational wealth, and we're trying to get more involved in multifamily. We've had a huge background in retail. Yeah. And, right now, I mean, I've told the family, look, within the next 2 years, I want to be involved in 1,000 units, whether that's developing parcels on our own shopping centers that we think have a better use, right? Like we've talked about. Right. We're looking at a couple of those deals. Obviously, we're looking at buying some things. And of course, we're finishing up the hedges and want to expand that brand. And, I want my grandkids to look back and say, man, in 2022, post-pandemic, the family looked in the mirror and said, hey, let's have more apartments. And we're thankful that we diversified a little bit off of some of the retail and got more into mixed use and multifamily. Hey, Dougie, do we have time to do a quick lightning round with Karl?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, I want to put Pat on the spot. Do you think he can pull up some of that music?
I hope so. So, Pat, you're going to open up the iTunes, and it's right there, the ticker.
You think we can do it? Karl, are you up for a couple questions just to keep it fun, keep it light?
Let's get to it.
All right, we're gonna get some music going. When we get our ticker going, then we'll start. All right, Karl, I'll start you with an easy one. How about a good business book or real estate book you'd recommend to the audience that they should go for and pick up and read?
Bold by Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil. It's bold, go big, and make a global impact.
Beautiful, beautiful. I don't know if you ever saw Ted Lasso. I love that show. But what would be your first concert and your best concert?
First and best would be Dave Matthews at the Gorge in George Washington.
Wow, nice. We don't get a lot of the first is the best. That's good. That's good. And then I don't know if you've been following. I love Tesla. I love Elon Musk. I definitely want to go to outer space. That was an awesome Instagram. So who would take us to outer space? Who would you feel comfortable with? Elon, Bezos, or Richard Branson?
Elon, and I want to build on Mars.
Oh. And then last question. I also grew up having a lot of fun vanity plates. on the car. If you had to get a vanity plate, and if it's not a vanity plate and you want to do an Instagram, that's fine. But give me a kind of a funny, cute handle that we would do for you.
Cold plunge.
Cold plunge.
CLB,
Oh my God.
PLNG.
I love it. I love it.
Do you cold plunge there, Carl?
Man.
I was doing it this morning, 4.5 minutes and 45-degree water.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been taking cold showers. I don't know if it's the equivalent. Probably not.
It's not
but
the equivalent, but it's on it. It's a step. It's a stepping in the right direction.
I put the water cold for
Very
like
healthy.
for 1 minute, and I sit there and freeze for a second. And
I think that's fabulous. I think that's another
I
podcast.
don't have a
talking
cold
about
plunge
the,
in my
health
1,000-foot
and wellness.
lot
Yeah.
in the back.
Can you fit a cold plunge in the ADU back there?
Yeah.
1,000 feet. I think so. And I want to give a plug to one of my friends who just has a brand new book.
Yeah.
I think I sent you the picture. Do you have that handy?
Yes.
Great book to pick up. Good friend of mine from my YPO group, Scott White, came out with a book called The Life is Too Short Guy. And it basically focuses on setting your goals in terms of, how do you approach each day when you get up? How do you not take anything for granted? How do you have kind of an attitude of gratitude? And, very simple, kind of pulls back some of the basic things that we all know how to do, but forget to do because we get so busy, right? And so when you wake up in the morning, the first thought you should have is, I'm happy. I'm thankful, for the wife in my bed now who just gave birth to my baby. I'm excited about this business meeting I have today. It shouldn't be, oh man, Jay-Z's got so much money. I see his car. I want that car. Or, I'm dreaded going to the gym today, right? It should be, hey, I'm thankful I can actually walk downstairs to the gym and cold plunge, and, how you set yourself up. So Scott's starting to embark on kind of a workshop that he'll be traveling around the country, and, hopefully that we'll have him here on the show as a guest and talk a little bit more about it. So that's a great book I want to recommend. Anyway, so if anybody wants to get in touch with Karl, definitely reach out to him on LinkedIn. Karl Krauskopf. All right.
There you go.
Okay. Wow. That's a mouthful. And of course, if you want to reach out to Dougie and I in the show, you can shoot us an email at getupwithgarret@gmail.com. You could reach out at Garret Graham, which is like Instagram. It's not my middle name, right? Somebody once said, is Graham your middle name? I didn't know that. So it's Garret Graham, 2 R's, 1 T, because my mama didn't want to slow me down with that second T. And make sure to give a thumbs up and a subscribe to the show. And we appreciate everybody staying with us live this morning. And just play us out. Where's Pat? Let's play us out, babe. And remember, health is wealth, all right? Enjoy that cold plunge, Karl. Health is wealth. We'll see you next time, guys. Take care.